Got some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, and it's good news for Kansas City Chiefs fans. Tight end Travis Kelce and defensive tackle Chris Jones will both return on Sunday against the Jaguars, barring any setbacks. Head coach Andy Reid made that announcement on Friday. Kelce missed Kansas City's Week 1 loss to Detroit with a knee injury before returning to practice this week, while Chris Jones is back after ending his holdout on Monday. Now let's talk about this with Douzable here on HQ. Leger, after what we saw from the Chiefs last week, obviously this is welcome news now for this offense and this defense. Let's start with Kelce here. We'll get to the on-field stuff in a second, but just how big is this psychologically to have Kelce back?
It's massive, Jeremy. We saw the Kansas City Chiefs really struggle on Thursday Night Football over a week ago in the red zone. I mean, that's where Travis Kelce is pivotal to this offense. So many times, Andy Reid does a masterful job of setting up plays to really spring Travis Kelce free. And then those plays, right, those off-script plays that Patrick Mahomes has, how many times has he been able to connect with Travis Kelce down the field while buying time in the backfield? They were not able to do that Thursday versus the Detroit Lions. So this is a surefire welcome to have Travis Kelce back in this offense.
How does having Kelce back open things up for Patrick Mahomes here? I mean, you alluded to it there with some of that off-script stuff, but obviously some of the receivers struggled. Obviously, Kadarius Toney, a guy that we've talked about, the fact that he struggled last week. We didn't really know what to make of this offense in terms of the receivers, but now that Kelce's back, how does he open things up for Patrick Mahomes?
First and foremost, Jeremy, consistency, right? You talked about Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. These guys had drop passes, pivotal drop passes. Well, you're not getting that from Travis Kelce, right? 7 straight seasons, I believe, with over 1,000 yards receiving. So the way he's able to attack down the seams, right? And again, I talked about the red zone. That's where he's pivotal. Usually, it's almost impossible to stop the Chiefs in the red zone, but Detroit was able to do it twice in the second half. That's essentially what won them the game, being able to bolt up big in the red zone. But again, Andy Reid does a really good job of putting Travis Kelce in different bunch sets, putting him in the yo position next to the tackle in the line of scrimmage, getting those mismatches in the red zone. Travis Kelce is always viable and available for Patrick Mahomes. That's where they truly missed him in the Week 1 game versus the Detroit Lions.
And certainly good for Mahomes to have his security blanket back with him, his #1 target. All right, let's talk about the defensive side. Chris Jones back. He's a game wrecker last week. Very evident that they were definitely missing his presence. What does his return mean for this defense?
I mean, Germany only got 1 sack last week, and it was from Mike Dana, and that was him moving from the outside to the inside. So if you look at Chris Jones and how he's able to affect the quarterback, over 15 sacks last season, they sorely missed that. But let's not forget the 4-minute drill that the Detroit Lions had at the end of the game, right? Being able to run out the clock. You don't think it would have boded well to have Chris Jones in the middle of that defense to try to get the ball back to the MVP, Patrick Mahomes? So the Detroit Lions were able to instill their will at the end of the game, not only on that David Montgomery touchdown run that gave them the lead, but to close out the game. So when you have a defensive player of the year type skill set player that Chris Jones is, you need him in the middle of that defense to make sure that he can make some of those big-time flash plays to get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. They weren't able to do that last week. Now, we'll see how effective he is, right, Jeremy, because he missed all the training camp, and we saw the same thing with Nick Bosa. Wasn't as effective in Week 1. Usually takes veterans about 2, maybe 3 weeks of solid football play to feel like they're back to themselves. But Chris Jones looked lean. He looked in shape. I believe he will have an impact. But before we see the Chris Jones that we saw last year, I think it's going to be a few weeks before we see that guy.
Well, and the Chiefs, you know, they don't want to fall to 0-2. They'd become the 6th defending Super Bowl champion. To fall to 0-2 to start the following season. This game this week is huge. I mean, they're in Duval County to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are, of course, a team that we're expecting a lot from this season. When you look at this game, the Chiefs come in here as 3.5-point favorites. Overall, though, who is this game bigger for, do you think? The Chiefs or the Jags?
The Chiefs, without a doubt. You don't want to go down 0-2 coming off a Super Bowl win. And if you look at it, this is a measuring stick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We know our guy Pete Prisco is high on them, believes that they're going to go to the Super Bowl and win the AFC. This is a good measuring stick. They've had 2 really nice battles last year during the regular season and a divisional matchup. Now they get the Kansas City Chiefs at their full strength. Now, they won't be at essentially their full strength because Travis Kelce's coming off an injury. Chris Jones missed a ton of time. So we'll see where those guys are at. But this is a good measuring stick. And I actually talked about this earlier this week with Pete Prisco, right? Because now the Jacksonville Jaguars get a pissed off Kansas City Chiefs team, right? Travis Kelce's pissed off he didn't play last week. Mahomes feel like they let one slip away versus the Detroit Lions in that opening. Too many drop passes. Kadarius Toney, can he have a bounce back game, right? He missed most of training camp as well. So you would think another week of playing football will help him as far as having a bounce back game this week. This will be a true measuring stick for Duval County versus the Kansas City Chiefs this week.
Could be some big points put up, too. The total sitting at 51.5, but it could climb with the return of Kelce to the Chiefs lineup.